Welcome to Saúde e Bem-Estar with Marcelo Menino, a YouTube channel and program number 2 with Dr. Diogo Lara, who is a neuroscientist and psychiatrist, on how to cure anxiety and depression. Now we're going to talk about how to cure depression because the first episode was such a success, and now we're going to talk about depression. Welcome, Dr. Diogo Lara. Thank you, Marcelo. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I couldn't not talk about the disease of the century. That depression really is an illness that afflicts many people. I've been through it myself, so I'm going to talk a bit about it too. Please define for me, Diogo, what a depressive state is, or a state of sadness and a state of pathological depression.
We talk a lot about sadness and discouragement when we talk about depression, and they really are part of depression, a lack of energy, but depression has something much deeper that normal sadness doesn't have, which is a drop in self-esteem. You know, when situations happen in my life, throughout my life, that undermine my self-esteem, and I start to have dysfunctional beliefs that I'm not capable, I have no value, I'm a failure, I don't deserve good things. Then there are more pejorative thoughts about me or about life, more negative, denser. In other words, they affect beings. Whereas if, let's say, something bad happens in my life, in other words, I feel sad, I'll feel that emotion of sadness, and I'll experience mourning, a loss, for example. Now, when in some way the situation that happened has hurt me in the sense of my self-esteem. For example, I couldn't do it, I lost someone. Then there are various things throughout my life. The main ones, in fact, many of them come from childhood, for example. A father and mother who offend a child, or who don't give them love, or who leave them on the sidelines, or bullying at school, or situations, for example, of first romances. In short, the person being rejected, or in short, experiencing humiliation, experiencing betrayal. These situations hurt the person. They really are thorns in the heart. They are breaks in this self-esteem. It's this that leads to depression. And from there, it also disrupts sleep, appetite, thoughts of depression, and so on.
Unlike sadness, mourning, it's a passage. It's a moment that the person also experiences, because sadness also has its importance in life.
Sadness is a very rich emotion which unfortunately is underappreciated. Sadness is the emotion that makes us let go, leave behind what is no longer useful, leaving behind what is no longer useful. In other words, it promotes a reform, that necessary disconnection that needs to be made. So for example, when someone dies who isn't going to come back to this life, I'm going to need to, naturally we can understand that I'm going to need to disconnect from the idea that that person is in my life. So that sadness is experienced, and you need to get to the bottom of it. Give yourself space to feel it, so that you can then accept what has happened. And then you move on to another chapter, to a new cycle. So sadness makes this movement, and if I don't give it space to feel, and I want to do 1,000 things to distract myself from this feeling, from this mourning, for example, it gets in the way, it gets obstructed. You can't resolve the situation that has happened. But here we're talking about normal losses. And here, a loss like this, as I say, losing someone, however painful that loss may be, won't necessarily affect my self-esteem. It can affect another aspect, which is my back, my support, my connections. It brings sadness, melancholy. So yes.
Depression.
And
Depression
there's
is
depression
different.
too, a important thing. This depression by disrupting the whole system of sleep, appetite, it makes you more and more hostage. This makes you more and more hostage. You really start to get into a place where you have no control. You have no control. You're hostage to an illness. When I say when you have a disease, when I say when you have an illness, you become a hostage to that illness. You have no control. So often from there, depending on the degree of the situation that happens and the emotion, may want to die. The person may want to die or even kill themselves. Wanting to kill oneself usually has to do with guilt and shame. These are the two emotions we don't talk about much, but they have to do with guilt and shame. Guilt about something I've done or failed to do, or shame about who I am. This brings the thought of self-annihilation, in other words, and they are the densest emotions and are often behind depression. And we talk about sadness and grief, but the whole is deeper. I'm going to show you an image. To this day, it's my cell phone screensaver.
I'll show you. Can you see it? This is my cell phone screensaver. This photo was taken on August 15th, 2014. My girlfriend took this photo. Here I was getting up from depression. In 2010, I had a very painful episode.
It was the same year as me. I had it too.
I spent more than 2 years in bed, waking up at 16. I'd get up, have a latte with toddy, a loaf of bread with butter, and I go back to sleep at 20. And I've been treated for all kinds of depression until I called this guy here in Porto Alegre. And he's in Porto Alegre. I couldn't afford to go. Financially, I wasn't doing well. He said, I'm going to come to São Paulo for a congress to give a lecture. You can go there in São Paulo on Avenida Paulista, I'll see you. I said, look, I don't know if I have the money to pay you. And people very close to me said, why don't you look for a lawyer? I said, what for? He said, to get a disability pension. And then, man, I end up meeting this guy. He takes me off the deep end. He treats my depression. So first of all, if you're going through depression or a problem, get help. I came out of it here to this. Today I'm married, I have 2 beautiful children. Thanks to professionals like him who help, who have also experienced depression, who have gone through terrible problems. And I'm not proud of that, but I also wanted to stop existing. I just didn't know how. So if you have a son or daughter or a husband, anyone, seek help. This guy invented app. Among millions of apps, he invented an app about depression. Talk a bit about this app, which we already talked about in episode 1. Look here, Diogo, I'm sorry, because you can. To feel like a failure, I couldn't hear that word failure. And today, thank God, I have a successful company with ISO 9001 accredited. I'm the owner of Fleming, and the channel came about through an invitation from the director Johnny. And I said, I have a life mission to help people. I already have a professional life. I'm very happy with the 74 employees there, that I have a life mission to help. And I said to my wife, please help me. I have a life mission. She said, you've already helped 74, it's too little.
And there are thousands who are assisted by the laboratory.
There are more than 90,000 people a year who go there, and we save lives, but I said it's too little. So for me today, to be on this program, interviewing a doctor who saved my life, and you who have depression can also seek help. Don't stop seeking help, Diogo. You've also been through this. Tell us a little bit about it.
I went through a situation that was a beating from life.
Who doesn't get beaten up by life?
I went through a very serious trauma, and I'd say I drank the canvas. I went into a degree of post-trauma depression where I had no feelings left. Having sadness would have been a good thing, but I was so numb that I turned into a zombie. And it was, I think, divine providence that I found therapies, new types of therapy that I was able to get out of. And from then on, I became obsessed with studying therapies and doing a lot of therapy. I did over 1,000 hours of therapy, various therapies and retreats, you name it. All this, in fact, has given me a much deeper knowledge than all the doctorates and academic careers and the 162 articles I've published. It's knowledge at the origin, at the source, going through these pains and understanding how to do it with the best resources humanity has discovered.
We're going to go to the break. We're going to come back and show how this app, how the techniques healed me, also him, and he created a legacy for the world, which is this app, which was in first place on Google Play 2019. We're going to take the 3 best stories from people who are going through, not better, who are going through difficulties, so that we can also give away 3 subscriptions to this app. We're going to go to the break. We'll be right back. And FlemingCast has arranged a promotion with a 10% discount on the app Cíngulo on the annual subscription. It's an exclusive gift for FlemingCast members. So you can cure your depression, cure your anxiety. Just click on the link below and activate your subscription with a 10% discount. Take care of your anxiety, take care of your depression, just like I did. Remember, if you need to see a psychologist, see a psychiatrist. Let's get back to the episode. And we're back with health and well-being, with Marcelo Menino talking about depression and what techniques were created by the creator of the Cíngulo, a neuroscientist. That's why neuroscientists, right? Neuroscientists study this. And then he went through depression, created a legacy for the world, and you said that then we hit the canvas, which is to feel nothing. I remember a song that moves me. Help. Somebody give me a heart, it doesn't beat or beat anymore, please, a small emotion. Anything you feel, with so many feelings, there must be something that fits. I've reached the point where I don't feel anything. I wanted to feel something, to be angry, to at least get out of bed, that something would come. Nothing came. It was an absence of all feelings. When I remember that, I can't believe what I went through, and how we can get out of it, and how the Cíngulo can help us in the techniques that you also worked on to be able to do.
The first thing I think it's important to say is that depression is a normal reaction to abnormal events in life. In other words, the body reacts in this way and creates this depression as a result of abnormal situations in our lives, aberrant situations in our lives. And we come from a very sick world, a very sick humanity. The way human nature would be lived is very far removed from what we live today, which is why it's been increasing more and more, especially in young people. And a lot of these bad situations that happen to us, that hurt us, and also good things that we're missing, for example, a lack of love, a lack of attention, a lack of welcome, a lack of positive stimuli. So when I'm saying this, I'm saying that even though depression is a disorder and the person is fresh from this story, they're not spoiled. They're not spoiled in the sense that they're flawed. It's a normal reaction. Other people who had been through similar situations would probably also be developing very painful conditions. Some might develop depression, alcoholism, or a serious physical illness, but what I want to say is that we need to understand that humanity, life as it is, causes us a lot of suffering. That's not wrong, so it's not wrong. I'm wrong with depression. My body is trying to deal with it as best it can. So it's these events that are being carried around inside me that have broken my self-esteem, that have cracked me, that need to be restored. And the great news, I think it's an absurd liberation that happens, which I was already applying in the techniques with you when I met you, because I had already received these techniques and developed in them, is that you look at this past, where the past hit. What are the burdens of the past? The overburdens.
And sometimes it hits you 3 times in the same place, and then you say, I'm a failure, I'm not going to make it, and if I die, it's a blessing for me.
And these 3 situations you've just talked about, which could be 12, could be 50, are memories. Yes, they are burdens, overloads, weights that we carry. So if we go into that memory, you get in touch with it and you enable your body's resources to be able to thresh it out, digest it. They dissolve. And as they dissolve, your whole physiology reorganizes itself and enables you to feel again. And first you'll feel the negative emotions, yes, but as you go through these negative emotions and they resolve themselves within you, then comes the sun, the light. An important principle to understand about treatment is that you don't need to create positive emotions. They are part of our basic structure. We were born with the capacity for this light. We have this light. We just need to unblock it. The light, we don't need to create the light within us. The light of life, the light of emotion, the light of God, the light is within us. We just need to remove
the clouds.
What obstructs it, the clouds. When, if you're here, let's say, at 2 in the afternoon and it's dark,
what's going to make?
Because there are clouds in the way. What are you going to do? What's going to come back? What's going to bring the light back? It's to dissipate the clouds. So these techniques make it possible to dissipate these clouds, no matter how heavy they are, no matter how dark and dense. And these clouds need to be felt, i.e., cried.
This app came from your story of depression, and you also created the free part, which has the emotional SOS, which talks a little about this part, which sometimes the person who is in need of it needs.
The first thing with the app is that you fill in a scale, which I call a questionnaire, and it gives you a very precise profile of your strengths and weaknesses. This scale took 10 years of research while I was a professor and researcher at PUC in Rio Grande do Sul, for it to map the mind very precisely so you know where the problem lies. That alone is a huge therapeutic gain. Even people say, wow, this business knows me better than my mother. Among the comments in the stores, how does this business know me so well? I just answered a few questions for them. That's the power of big data. We did big data on the human mind and we got to this scale. So that's the first point. Then you have a free session on your main pain. Let's say it's anxiety, discouragement. Then you have the mood series, shaken. Then you have a session. From here, the series of sessions. And you have the SOS, which are the techniques to get you out of a more suffering emotional state. And there you can already make a good recovery. There's also an emotional diary for you to keep track of yourself. And the emotional diary is a practice that talks a bit. But writing day by day about what's happened in your life, bad, good, you're getting in touch with your emotions and they're happening, they're moving. And at the end you ask yourself, what did you learn from the day? You reflect, oops. Just these small practices can make people change, make a huge rise in well-being and awareness.
So look how interesting it is that we can take on problems, learn from life, allow ourselves to be transformed, use the gifts that God has given us so that we can also create things and help people. And we know today when we help someone who has a problem with depression or anxiety, or me, in my limited way, I'm more of an entrepreneur. I'm not part psychiatrist, I'm more of an entrepreneur. Being able to help employees do things, we feel energized and on a life mission. So we've seen this very clearly, Diogo, since I first met you. Also the Google Play Awards, the Apple Store too, you were in the top 3,
There was a sentence, and the story has something kind of impressive, that the score is 5.0, with 60,000 self-assessments. I've never seen, to this day, show me an app with more than 5.
With more than 50,000 evaluations, and we're going to take your there with the photo, QR code of the WhatsApp of the program. It's already WhatsApp to give personality. Okay, go straight to me. And identifying these stories, we're going to give 3 subscriptions for a year. So maybe you're a mother, your child is not now, is in bed, or husband, or someone who is in deep depression. Don't give up. This here is the health and well-being program, but it should be called Hope and Well-being today, because hope is coming here. And I feel very honored and very grateful to be part of this story, to have met you. My family loves you with a passion for what you've created. And you, my father, I remember that after a week, you asked to speak to my father too. We were in a session. At the time it was Skype. I live in Porto Alegre. He said, I don't know what you did with the boy, but he got out of bed. And then we had another journey. As I showed you this photo, it was in 10,014. When my girlfriend hit me and my wife, so we came to do some work, and not just my face, my manner changed, my mind changed, my company changed. When I allowed myself to feel that it was something I wanted to get away from. When I sought help, in other words, my ego was pushed aside and courage appeared. And today I have a friend who we can eat meat with, a barbecue, and celebrate life.
I'm glad I'm in Sao Paulo. It's easier now too. And I also want to give one last message of hope, which is
let's close
behind all the pain, there is a blessing. And what we're experiencing here is the blessing that we discovered by resolving, by freeing ourselves from the pain we were carrying.
And it's true, if I hadn't had that deep pain, I wouldn't have the blessing today of having met you and been a better person. Because I became a better person because of what life gave me.
Aren't you better than you were before?
Before the adolescent?
I was before I got sick. Illness is often the awakening to a glorious life to come, as long as we have the courage to follow that path.
And this can happen to anyone who is going through depression. Let me shake your hand. Dear, thank you. A big hug. This was Health and Well-being with Marcelo Menino, Dr. Diogo Lara, neuroscientist, creator of the Cíngulo. A kiss on your heart, and don't lose hope.